Good afternoon, everyone. Portland, Oregon School Board bans books that deny 100% CO2 caused climate change. The resolution 5272 clearly states that the severity of climate change is only human activity related, and any other thoughts, ideas will not be accepted or put into those textbooks. Now, they're starting a climate justice curriculum and also getting students ready for living wage jobs, which means hourly wage. A jump through Google here on something so important, even by the specific keywords of the resolution and number only, yielded 3 results. Now, one of those results is from the Portland, Oregon Tribune itself, but that article now has a broken link, no longer available. Common Dreams, Bill Bigelow, the author of the piece, is also the speaker that you'll see at the table here. And you'll see here the activists from 350 PDX, Raging Grannies, Rising Tide, Sierra Club, Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility, Climate Jobs PDX, and a host of other groups, which is not publicly available. I'm wondering how many of those were funded by the IPCC to put this in front of the school board. I left it in red: ban books and education materials that hedge on the side of uncertainty when dealing with matters of climate change. This includes words like may and might. Ban books, eliminate doubt, control the truth. Bill Bigelow, who you saw, the author of the Climate Dreams article, is also the speaker here in the red shirt on the far right. We should not teach our students to be skeptical of the human roots of climate crisis. Now wait, I thought science was debatable, and it should be at all times. Nothing's 100%. This is an image of the room inside on the Board of Education on something so integral and so important in our societies in this modern day and era where we're banning books now, and this is the turnout that occurred. A picture of the 9 school board members who voted to ban books that even allow you to have your own open opinion about climate change reality. We'll take a look through the video in the entire room, but let's break it down here. The resolution 5272, a resolution to develop an implementation plan for climate literacy. Now, in the highlight in the blue on the bottom of the text there, they will abandon any text that does not say the climate crisis is not because of human-related CO2 output and activities. Okay, that's at 100%. That's anti-science. We should always be questioning. Jump over to Google. When you put the exact search term in here, you only come up with 3 results, which is interesting. Look at the second one, Oregon Local News. When you go to that link, it's a broken link. It still is today, 3 days after I've been compiling this information. So I tried to reword it, move the words around, get some different results, but still the only I could come up with was 5 different results. Now this should be front page news across the entire United States because they are banning books that use the word may, might. So the Oregon school system has taken this approach to ban the books, eliminate the doubt, and control the truth. After my entire study of this, I'm breaking it down to these 3 points here. Let's go through them. It's my own personal opinion. I'm presenting to you my findings on what my own personal feelings are about this. Now, the resolution in the first recital section here, the guidelines, if you will, drawing on local resources to build a climate justice curriculum. That in itself is a scary tone there. Climate justice. What are you going to execute people or arrest them or pour ink on their heads like they did to the Red Guard in Mao's era because they didn't kowtow to the political correctness of the day? Now, Common Dreams published this article by Bill Bigelow. He's actually one of the speakers there at the school board meeting himself. Now, the activists that are supporting this are 350 PDX, Raging Grannies, Rising Tide, Sierra Club, Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility, Climate Jobs PDX, and a host of others. And I'm also wondering, the host of others, are you receiving money from the IPCC as grant funding? Another one of the recitals is they will make students aware of training opportunities and living wage jobs, which means hourly pay. So they're not even preparing people for excelling in society, to be an entrepreneur, to have an open mind, to create. It's just about work with a company, get paid an hourly wage. That's it. I jump right into the regular meeting here. This is kind of what the attendance was for such an integral, crucial issue on our education system, at least in the United States. Bill Bigelow, who also wrote that previous article, has a textbook that Oregon school system is considering using for climate education. And he writes, quote, "We should not teach our students to be skeptical of human roots of climate crisis." Well, that's very anti-science in itself, because nothing's 100% in science. It should always be questioned. And a great quote that I had read once, every generation's breakthrough is proven false by the next generation's technology. So what we may think as truth today with new technologies will reveal more information showing us that we didn't have exactly all the information that we thought we did. So I'll bring you back again, Abandoning Doubt and Denial, and you'll see the author, Bill Bigelow, here, wants to abandon the use of any adopted text that expresses doubt on the human activity. He goes on to say, quote, "A lot of the text materials are kind of thick with the language of doubt." And again, this is from his same article that he wrote, but then, which includes a scant 3 paragraphs on climate change. So there's so much doubt in 3 paragraphs. It continues, "It's unacceptable that we have textbooks in our schools that spread doubt about the human causes of climate change and the crisis." Well, there's only 3 paragraphs, so I don't know how bad that really could be. He does write also for the People's Curriculum for the Earth, which is another permissible material in textbooks under this new resolution. It's kind of like the Ministry of Truth or something. You know, we see this same kind of adopted strategy through time if you look back in history, depending on which part of the world you are, where the youth are activated, books are banned, new propaganda is put out to turn the youth against people that have disagreeing or divergent opinions, and then those that had overseen them through the transition walk away hands clean, because at some point there was a spark and the youth movement got really intense, and then it just took on its own life form from there, extinguishing any alternative opinions. Now I'm asking a personal question to the Oregon school system. This is the Greenland Ice Core Data GISP series going back 1,000 years. Can you explain to me? I'm not a PhD, I'm only a researcher. You all must be PhDs, though, to make these kind of high-level decisions whether to ban books or not. How is the climate changing so much in temperature variability without CO2 forcing or effects of CO2 that brought about these distinct, abrupt ups and downs in climate temperature changes? Also, the Younger Dryas, extreme. I mean, within 2 years, that temperature rose 10 degrees C. How can that be explained as well? Also, talking about the IPCC, it's the fastest as climate change has ever occurred in the last 500,000 years, yet somebody conveniently left out the Younger Dryas just 12,000 years ago, which there was a temperature spike in the matter of 2 years. So can that be explained without CO2? I would love an explanation for that, because I am kind of lost to explain it myself. But you all are the experts here. I'll bring you over here to the last 11,000 years of climate data. Medieval warm period, far warmer than today. As you can see, the exceptional rises around 8,000 years ago. How can that be explained with no CO2 in the air, factories, cars, etc.? Our rise in temperature is minuscule compared to what's happened in the past 12,000 years. Natural cycles like El Nino and La Nina. As you can see, the climate variability temperature spikes and decreases here. How can that be explained? That's a natural cycle. And we are coming off one of the strongest El Ninos ever recorded, so we are going to plunge into one of the deepest La Ninas ever recorded as well. Add on top of this, the multi-decadal oscillation on its 60-year cycle is going cold. So we got the Pacific going cold, the Atlantic going cold, and our sun going into a grand solar minimum. It's going to cool down. I personally believe it is. So does a host of others. I have 1,380 other scientists that agree. I'm going to run down my full book reading, video collection, resources for all of you people at the Oregon school educational system to dive into, so you can make your students aware that there's alternative opinions out there other than CO2 man-made climate change. All the educators in the Oregon school system, explain to me the Gulf of California water temperatures and the medieval warming spike. The surface temperatures off of Baja California, medieval warming spike. Explain to me the Nordic seawaters with the temperature changes throughout the last 2,000 years. including the Dark Ages, the Roman warming, the medieval warming, and the modern warming is minuscule in comparison. Please explain all that to me, because it's only CO2 that drives our climate, right? When we use carbon-14, when we go into the solar minimums, you'll see there's a decrease in temperature. Every increase in temperature is caused by CO2. That must be correct by your assumptions, yes? Also, long-term climate cycles. There's 80-year Gleisberg cycle, max 102. It's a sine wave, and you can clearly see that we're going back on the downtrend again through these next 15 to 20 years. Now, if that has no effect, also, can you answer that question? How is the Gleisberg cycle not affected to climate variability? Global temperatures back 2,500 years. As you can see, ebbs and flows, ups and downs in temperature. I need an explanation because, again, all of you must have advanced knowledge of climate system workings to understand all of this climate information at such a level that you can now dictate what our students learn and what they're taught. I need an answer for this also. I don't understand how the temperature can go up and down. And can you explain also what you mean by redefine what it means to educate students for the future of certain climate change? What does that word educate mean? Is that a substitute word for brainwash, indoctrinate? I'm not sure. I need an explanation also. I want to really add my own opinion along with 30 other people and references, because you are asking right here, it's essential that the classes and other school activities probe the causes. Well, you're not. You're saying that it's only 100% CO2 driven. That's not a probe. That is a foregone 100% conclusion there. Now, the Portland Public School System is also going to have activities that bring together teachers, students, and members of the community. I would like to be a member remotely of your community, so would others, that can offer you what we consider climate variability, natural cycles that control climate temperatures. Also, it says explore the breadth and cause of the consequences of climate change. Oh, we are here to help you. But this thing about banning the books, that hedge on the side of uncertainty when dealing with the climate change, when you use words like may and might as hedge of uncertainty, that in my book's a little bit extreme. That's my own opinion though. Mike Rosen, I can see how you're holding off on the perceived conflict of interest trying to implement this policy, but you've just been overridden. And I see how it's eliminate all the doubt of the climate change here. And then you want Tennessee, Virginia, and Texas and go right in, accept your book banning at the same time with language of open opinion that we have debates about what really causes the climate to change. For me, that's a little draconian. You know, that goes back to the 15th century. Again, it's my own opinion, though. News release says it was a full house. Not really sure. Again, the 9 board members up there, I can't locate their names except for the name cards on there. This information is not available publicly. And if it is, I would love somebody to send me a link so I could contact them personally, ask about their research history and how they know so much about climate to be able to make decisions about, for sure, it's locked into human CO2. They'd like to thank the organizations, community partners that endorsed the resolution. That's great, but again, there's no public record of this. Who off the IPCC is funding some of these groups? Why is it hidden information? Why is that not publicly available? Why is that not public ledger in your school system? Now, you also adopted the opinion that there's an overwhelming consensus in the scientific community. But here, I'm going to go right in with some research articles that you need to present with your students. Top 30 scientists predict global cooling. 1,380 peer-reviewed papers on natural temperature changes hidden by the IPCC. I've created a full global cooling forecast 2016 and 19 based on natural variability and solar irradiance caused by albedo effect. The Portland Public School Systems comes out publicly and says it does not currently have a strategy to help district educators develop or implement a curriculum. So we are here to help you, actually. Portland School Systems. Here we go. I'll start you with your first piece of information that you can use to educate your students and your board members. Grand Solar Minimum Climate Change Roundtable Discussion Lesson. It's the Little Ice Age and the International Commission on Economics, effects on the global crop production predicted from future and past cycles. This is a great one here. It goes in and analyzes the entire cycles of sunspots, oceanic cycles, rotational cycles around the sun. This goes back into the Little Ice Age and then how it occurred and how the temperature changed and what the future would bring if we entail and get into such another cycle here. Also before present, if we go back, 11,000 years, Climate's always been changing. And the changes we're experiencing today of like half a degree rise, that's nothing, absolutely nothing to what's happened over the last 10,000 years. So this whole, it's changed the most in a million years, fastest in 500,000 years. That's a little not correct. And also the younger dryas here, I want your board educators to take a look at this. The extreme spikes of 10 degree C changes within 2 years now from the ice core data and the seabed core samples have proven that that dramatic rise in temperature took 2 years only. I don't know with CO2 back then, if you can explain to me of how the climate can jump when there was no CO2 production factories, SUVs, etc. back then. Reference time for all of you in the Oregon school system. I'm going to run down a whole series of videos and books and movies, things you can look at for free on the internet so you don't have to spend any money. Educate your students. Suspicious observers. Daily observations of the sunspot count, workings of our universe, and different anomalies, how coronal holes trigger earthquakes in the Earth spot electrical connections here on our planet. If you hadn't heard about that, you shouldn't be voting for this resolution. Rolf Weiss talking about how solar activity ushers in and brings us out of cold cycles, ice ages, mini ice ages. There's a whole gamut of information here. Jan the Art, his videos are super short, get to the point really quickly. You can watch through a bunch of these fast, talking about how the Earth's weather is connected and related to sunspot activity. Weather Action Channel, if you don't know Piers Corbin, one of the best forecasters using solar activity to put out months in advance what the global weather will do with the patterns, the way they shift. If you haven't seen Piers, go check it out. Adapt 2030. This is my channel following all the cold weather anomalies that are not generally reported in the mainstream media. Record snows across the northern hemisphere, from Russia, Europe crop losses, all across the northeast United States, record snows in China all in the last weeks. Not just breaking the old record, which was half an inch. This time it's 7 inches. So these records are being broken literally by 15 times. That's what I cover. Now, John Casey, you want to check out his works. Cold Sun is his book, and he also goes into how the sun affects our climate. Jill Bastardi, different effects other than CO2. And if you're not hearing of these people, you need to. And you need to watch them and then think about revising your new curriculum ban. Dr. Easterbrook, incredibly interesting. Tim Ball, PhD. Murray Salby. Now, if you want to know about CO2, you need to watch his presentation. He shows you exactly the CO2 forcing based on the background noise from natural variability into what the human input is into the whole system. Incredible. Control of the atmospheric CO2. Cloud Mystery. Heinrich Svensmark talks about how cosmic rays increase low cloud cover, which increases the albedo, which increases snow cover because the temperature is cool and you get into this feedback loop. Nothing to do with CO2. Cosmic radiation, because the solar wind pressure is lessened, which allows more cosmic rays to penetrate our atmosphere. Another great one, the Great Global Swindle, shows you how much and how many companies, people, organizations that support changes like this in textbooks are funded by the IPCC. That's why I ask you, where's your public ledger of all the groups involved in this push for the change? I can't find it anywhere, and I would bet, in my own personal opinion, there is political funding from the IPCC in those groups to push this book change. Climate Hustle, Mark Morano. Paris, debut of the movie. You want to take a look at this one too. Write Mark personally. Tell him you're from the Oregon school system and you're interested to watch the movie to get a true caliber on what the opposition says to pure 100% CO2 forced warming. Thunderbolts Project. There's a whole host of videos on here talking about the electric universe. Now, if the sun was a static, internally combusting star, there should be no variability in our climate cycle at all. It should be a static system with a static temperature. Look at the sunspot cycles over the last 400 years. You know, if our star was an internally fired nuclear reaction furnace, there shouldn't really be changes in the intensity of the sunspot cycle. Now, there should there. If it's combusting at a certain rate, however many millions and billions of years it shall burn because of the total mass of the star, there shouldn't be really that much fluctuation inside. All the way down to 0 sunspots up to a max count and then back down to 0. It shows that there's a sine wave that's very similar to what an electrical wave looks like. This is the forecast going out. This is from Dr. Abuzimov from the Pulkovo Astronomical Observatory. He's the director over there in Russia. Putting out the forecast here of the TSI and the sunspot count over the next 30 years, bringing us back into the grand solar minimum of the Maunder minimum in the 1600s repeat. Now, Oregon education, advisors, supervisors, presidents, advisory committees, you all need to watch these resources I've just presented to you so you can compare the information from the one side of the supporters compared to what this other spectrum of proven science is showing different effects on our climate. I would truly hope you take a look at both and then reconsider this resolution and pulling it back and reining it in some so people can still have an opinion. Because this book banning, I can almost see it moving next into a book burning where you have some sort of public book burning of the old books or some kind of shredding, have a public shredding thing where they'll have some big shredder out there and everybody will throw them in and jump for joy that you've changed policy. But we see this time and time and again in history. It can get away from you, and it's a dangerous play to be trying to do this with students' minds, to get them brainwashed into this and try to take control of their thoughts and then unleash them in a controlled way upon the public. If you like the content of this and other videos that I've brought to you, please consider supporting me on Patreon. I've put a link below. I'm starting to host all of my videos on that site. You can support me throughout the month so I can continue to bring videos like these to your attention.